The Phoenix Lights, the largest mass UFO sighting in American history. On the evening of March 13, 1997, the first reports came from Henderson, Nevada, just south of Las Vegas. A man reported seeing a V-shaped object with 6 lights. At 8:17 p.m., a former police officer in Paulden, Arizona, reported a cluster of reddish-orange lights moving southwest. Over the following 90 minutes, the reports moved south along the I-17 corridor as the object or objects passed over Arizona. By 8:30 p.m., hundreds of people in the Phoenix metropolitan area were watching something large and silent cross the sky. The event had 10,000 witnesses by conservative estimates. The descriptions that night were remarkably consistent. Witnesses reported a massive V-shaped or boomerang-shaped craft, typically described as between a quarter-mile and a mile wide. The craft moved very slowly, far slower than any conventional aircraft. It was completely silent, which for an object of its reported size would be extraordinary. It flew at low altitude. Witnesses described it as lower than clouds and blocking out stars. The lights were arranged in a symmetrical pattern on the leading edge of the V. The craft moved from north to south and then south of Phoenix, passing over the city at low speed. Among the witnesses were people whose credibility was difficult to dismiss. 2 commercial airline pilots independently reported the object. A Phoenix police officer watched it. A videographer named Tim Lay captured footage showing the lights. And Fife Symington, the Republican governor of Arizona at the time, watched it from his home. Symington initially held a press conference where he jokingly produced a man in an alien costume, dismissing the sightings. Years later, he recanted, stating publicly that he had seen the object himself and that it was not flares or conventional aircraft. It was something extraordinary. The U.S. Air Force's explanation was that the lights seen over Phoenix were flares dropped by A-10 Warthog aircraft from Luke Air Force Base during a training exercise. The Maryland Air National Guard confirmed that they had dropped flares on that night over a location south of Phoenix called the Estrella Mountains. This explanation is consistent with the second set of lights seen later in the evening, stationary lights that slowly faded one by one, which is exactly what parachute flares look like. But it does not account for the earlier sightings of a large, slow-moving V-shaped object that passed over Phoenix at low altitude. The flare explanation has been criticized on several grounds. First, A-10 flares fall in a relatively short time. They do not hover in formation while moving slowly across a 300-mile corridor for 90 minutes. Second, the witnesses who described a solid V-shaped object with lights reported a craft that blocked stars. Flares hanging from parachutes do not form a solid object. Third, the trajectory. The earlier sightings from Nevada and northern Arizona preceded the later sightings from Phoenix by over an hour, suggesting a northerly source of the object rather than a military exercise area south of Phoenix. The Phoenix Lights occurred 3 months before the 50th anniversary of the Roswell incident, a coincidence that generated significant media context. 1997 was also the year of unprecedented public interest in UFOs, driven by the X-Files at peak popularity. The cultural context matters. The Phoenix Lights were more widely reported and more seriously treated by mainstream media than previous mass sightings, partly because of the cultural moment they occurred in. Whether this context affected the reports, creating a framework in which witnesses interpreted ambiguous lights as a structured craft, is a question that cannot be definitively answered. The Phoenix Lights of 1997 are generally treated as 2 separate events by serious researchers. The first event, a large moving formation of lights in a V-shape observed from Nevada to South Phoenix between 7:55 and 8:30 p.m., and the second event, a cluster of stationary lights south of Phoenix seen around 10 p.m. that more plausibly matches the flare explanation. These 2 events have been conflated in popular coverage. The second event has a reasonable conventional explanation. The first event, a large, low, silent, slow-moving V-shaped formation observed by thousands of people across 300 miles, does not. 10,000 people watched something over Arizona on March 13, 1997. The governor of Arizona saw it and later said he didn't know what it was. Commercial pilots saw it. Police officers saw it. The early sighting, a large, slow, silent, star-occluding V-shaped formation moving across 300 miles, has not been conclusively identified. The official explanation accounts for some of what was reported that night, and not all. 27 years later, the Phoenix Lights remain the largest mass UFO event in American history, and the early formation remains officially unidentified.